Talk a little bit about your, um, when you were first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. How old were you?
So I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 22. So I was a senior in college. I was going to Stanford University and I was studying mechanical engineering. And I was just trying to, I had senioritis. I was just approaching the second semester, or I guess it would be I was in the middle of the second quarter. And I had already decided that like I didn't really care about school that much. I just wanted to like move on with my life and, enter the real world. So I remember studying for finals, and I was studying thermodynamics, which is not a fun subject. And I mean, it requires a lot of brain power in order to figure out what the heck is going on. And as I was trying to, make sense of this problem set, I remember pulling my head up from the problem set and taking a thought for myself. And I was like, man, I'm pretty thirsty. So I went and I grabbed a glass of water and I drank the whole thing, put it down, and I continued working. And then 3 minutes later, I was like, I think I'm thirstier. That's weird. And then I drank another glass of water, put it down. And then this cycle kept on happening over and over and over again. And then at a certain point, I was like, I wonder if I'm electrolyte depleted. Maybe I should go get some Gatorade. So I got some Gatorade and I started drinking that. Got thirstier, got thirstier, got thirstier. And this was happening over the course of like 3 to 4 to 5, 6 hours. And I was taking on so much fluid at that time that I ended up going to the bathroom and urinating every half an hour, just like clockwork. I mean, and it was, a lot of, I was flushing a lot of fluids. So the cycle that I got myself into was that I was drinking a lot of fluid, I was urinating a lot of fluid, and then as a result of that, I was actually depleting electrolytes. So that means that when I went to sleep, I would be asleep for like an hour, and when you get like a calf cramp in the middle of the night, and it's like extremely painful, and then you have to like wake up all of a sudden and try and like manipulate your legs such that you can relieve the tension in your calf and
Oh,
try
that's the
and
worst, dude.
stretch out.
I've had it in like hamstrings, like not often, not I mean once or twice ever in my life that have like woken me up.
Yeah.
Mostly after like really, really intense long training periods or something like that. And then the hamstring, and it's like you can't. It is one of the worst things ever.
Yeah, exactly. Because the hamstring is such a large muscle. The hamstring can be extremely painful when that happens. So in this moment, we're in 2002. I fall asleep. I'm electrolyte depleted. I don't know that this is happening to me.
Mm.
My calf and my left leg cramps up. So I try and relieve the tension in my calf, in my left leg, and then right hamstring cramps up, and then left butt cheek cramps up, and then my abdomen cramps up. And before I know it, there were moments where I was lying in bed and I was in what felt like full body rigor mortis. And I was like, this is unbelievable, because nothing I could do would actually relieve that tension. So I finally picked up the phone and I called my sister, and she's a doctor of osteopathy, family practice, and she's brilliant. And I explained my symptomology to her, and she started crying. She's a very, very cool cucumber, and under normal circumstances, nothing phases her. I explained my symptomology to her, and she started crying. And she said, Cyrus, whatever you are doing, drop it. Go straight to the health center right now because you have type 1 diabetes. And I was like, diabetes? What are you talking about? I'm like, I'm normal weight. I exercise. I don't eat a bunch of cake. And she's like, I don't have time to explain. Just go. And at that time in my life, I didn't know anything about human health. I just, I knew one thing. I had an association, which was that diabetes affected old people who ate candy and cakes.
Mm.
And I was neither of the two. So I was like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. So I go straight to the health center. I check into the health center. The nurse checks me in. She checks my blood glucose. She has to take a finger stick, walk into another room, put it into a blood glucose meter, and come back. She comes back maybe 3 minutes later or so. I'm passed out. She knocks on the door. She walks on the door, and I literally wake up and I'm like, okay, where am I? All right. I'm in the doctor's office. Okay. How did I get here? Oh, okay, cool. I walked myself here. Okay. Who is she? Okay. She's a nurse. And I had to like piece together this, confusing situation. And she looks at me and she has like a kind of ghostly look on her face. And she goes, how did you get here? And I was like, I walked. And she's like, we got to get you to the ER right now. And I was like, could somebody please explain to me what the heck is going on? Because I don't understand. And she said, your blood glucose is higher than 600 right now. And it's supposed to be effectively about 100, between 80 and 130. That's the target range. So your blood glucose is 6 times higher than it's supposed to be right now. And this is a telltale sign that you have type 1 diabetes. So we got to get you to the ER, and we got to get you there now. So they take me over to the ER. They check me in. I'm there for the next 24 hours. While under supervision from that team of doctors, they give me an IV saline in one arm, and then they give me drip irrigation of insulin, and they start to use insulin, in very small quantities to try and lower my blood glucose. Now, the kicker is that while I was there, the team of doctors that had been assigned to my case recognized that not only was I developing or had I developed type 1 diabetes, and this was an emergency situation called DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, but secondarily, I had 2 other autoimmune conditions that had not been officially diagnosed until that moment. They said, Cyrus, you have 3 autoimmune conditions. Number 1, you have Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. Number 2, you have alopecia universalis, which is just a fancy way of saying hair loss. It's an autoimmune condition that affects your hair follicles and gets you to lose your hair. And then number 3, you have type 1 diabetes. We have never seen somebody with this combination, what's referred to as a polyglandular autoimmune syndrome. We've never seen anybody with this combination of autoimmune diseases. Can we talk about you at our next huddle? Can we study you? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Absolutely, you can talk about me. But here's the thing. You're not giving me any confidence that you know what to do. And they were like, yeah, here's the thing. We don't know what to do. We're just gonna try and help you get through this, this next 24-hour period. Wow. So that started the journey of me being discharged from the hospital with a blood glucose meter, test strips, syringes, 2 types of insulin, a carbohydrate counting guide, a completely different. I had so much fear in me that I did this to myself, that I was living a lifestyle that was actually just making me more unhealthy, and it was going to get worse and worse and worse over the course of time. And 3 autoimmune conditions would turn into 5, would turn into 8, would turn into 20 down the road. And, here I am as a 22-year-old guy just trying to live my life. And I turned into a chronic disease patient overnight. Not fun. Definitely not fun.
So you had to be pretty frightened when they told you all this and didn't really know what to do, right?
I was terrified. I was terrified because anytime you're diagnosed with a chronic disease and you go from being unaware to aware, that moment of realization can hit you like a ton of bricks, right? It could be diabetes. It could be heart disease. It could be cancer. It could be an autoimmune disease. It could be the beginnings of dementia / Alzheimer's, fatty liver disease, chronic kidney disease, you name it. Any of these conditions, like these are not fun conditions to have or to be diagnosed with. And so here I am, a 22-year-old guy who's normal weight, athletic, active on a daily basis, thinking that I eat a quote unquote healthy diet, or at least at that time I was like, oh, I eat healthy. Despite all of that, I get diagnosed with not 1, not 2, but 3 autoimmune diseases. And I was like, this doesn't even make any sense. There's no autoimmunity in my family. How is this possible? Like maybe I just got dealt a bad genetic card, but then I look back at my parents and I look back at their parents and their parents and so on and so forth. And it's like type 1 diabetes is nowhere to be found. Hashimoto's hypothyroidism is nowhere to be found. What the heck? Right? And so that's why there were a lot of questions and there were effectively 0 answers. Hey, I'm Cyrus Khambatta, co-creator of the Mastering Diabetes Method, which has helped thousands of people reverse insulin resistance and take control of their lives no matter what type of diabetes they're living with. Do you want to know all of our tips, tricks, and secrets? They're right here in our New York Times best-selling book, Mastering Diabetes, which you can find at masteringdiabetes.org/book. If you're ready to master diabetes, pick up a copy today. You won't be disappointed.